Ever wondered what the difference between a rent agreement and a leave and license agreement in India is? Well, the distinction lies in the nature of the right granted to the occupant and the legal implications involved. First, let's delve into the rent agreement. This agreement establishes a landlord-tenant relationship where the tenant is granted exclusive possession of the premises for a defined period. The tenant gets certain rights of tenancy and is considered a tenant under the rent laws. The legal relationship is governed by the respective state's rent control laws, if applicable, and the Transfer of Property Act. Over time, the tenant accrues more rights, making it potentially more challenging for the landlord to evict the tenant. On the other hand, a leave and license agreement grants the licensee a limited right to use and occupy the premises for a specified period. Unlike a rent agreement, the licensee does not have any tenancy rights. This agreement falls under the purview of the Indian Easements Act. It's commonly employed when the occupant needs a temporary residence in a property for a few months or years, without acquiring any tenancy rights. The licensor or owner retains more control and can more easily terminate the agreement at its conclusion. Now, let's recap the key differences. In terms of tenancy rights, a rent agreement establishes a tenancy relationship, giving the tenant specific rights and protections under the law. In contrast, a leave and license agreement does not create a tenancy and thus does not confer tenancy rights. In terms of duration and termination, a leave and license agreement is typically set for a shorter, more defined period compared to a rent agreement. Termination procedures are also usually simpler for a leave and license agreement. Lastly, in terms of legal framework, rent agreements are governed by rent control laws and property laws specific to tenancy, while leave and license agreements are governed by the Indian Easements Act. So, when deciding between a rent agreement and a leave and license agreement, it's essential to consider the intended use of the property and the desired legal relationship between the parties involved. Knowledge is power, and understanding these agreements can help ensure your rights and responsibilities are protected.